y'all? This is your girl, Rita Pemisai, and today I'm recording my first YouTube long form video under Healing Out Loud. That's Lao'd, Laod. I get asked a lot, how did I become a licensed therapist? And more specifically, a licensed clinical social worker, because that is one track to becoming a licensed therapist. And on top of my background history of being a daughter of refugees, there's a lot of different barriers that I've come across. So I wanted to make a video to share about my experiences that may resonate or that just may inform your decision on whether or not you want to become a licensed therapist in your specific state. So welcome to this journey. And I wanted to preface that this is not clinical consultation or any type of clinical advice. This is just me expressing my personal journey and you having access to these experiences that have shaped me into being who I am today. And this is also one aspect of my professional journey. Being a licensed therapist is not the only thing that credentials me as a professional, but is a unique journey in itself that I went on and it decided to go through without even knowing that I was going to land where I am today. So bear with me and thank you for coming on this ride. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section and I'm happy to answer what I can. And truly, this is a very unique and special journey. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my family history, just to give folks context who may not be aware of my work with Healing Out Loud, which is a multimedia platform to destigmatize mental health in the Lao diaspora communities, other refugee communities, overall Southeast Asian diaspora. So I make sure that Lao and overall Southeast Asian diaspora know that our journeys in terms of mental health are very unique based off of our culture, our language, our traditions. And I want to make sure that people know that there are ways to be able to heal, to be able to navigate difficult conversations, relationships, etc., because of my own experiences of navigating conflict within my own family. And you can hear all these different stories. I have an episode with my mom navigating our conflict, navigating conflict with my brothers on the Healing Out Loud podcast, which you can find anywhere on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. So just a little bit about me, daughter of refugees. Both my parents are from Laos and Thailand, dad from Laos, mom from Thailand. They escaped war. And there's multiple forms of violence and trauma that they faced in terms of poverty, displacement, physical violence. So the refugee experience is that my dad escaped war. My mom in Thailand came to the States in the late 80s. I was born in Chico, California, but I was raised in North Carolina. And I moved to LA about 10 years ago in 2013 to pursue my master's in Asian American Studies at UCLA. So that is a very, very short summation of what actually took place because I skipped a lot of different details, but I just wanted to speed us up to understand that when I came to UCLA and doing the Asian American Studies program, I initially thought I was going to do a PhD following after that, and then do research, perhaps to inform policy practice regarding access to higher education spaces for Lao Americans. I ended up doing storytelling and actually made a short film about my dad's story when it comes to escape from war trauma, raising awareness about Lao stories in general, because growing up, I didn't have that. I did not know who I was. And I grew up in a predominantly white community in North Carolina, and our history was not taught, and I couldn't Google it. I don't even know if Google was that accessible or if that was the main platform where people went to find information. So my journey of coming to UCLA was not necessarily to do social work. I had no idea what social work even was or what you can do about it, but there's a lot of stigma about social work being, you take babies from their parents, baby snatchers, etc. So there wasn't a euphemism when it comes to social work. And I did not realize that you could do a dual degree program when it comes to Asian American Studies and social work. What had happened was I came to LA specifically to do my research study on what does it mean to increase access to higher education opportunities for Lao Americans, as I have been the beneficiary of all the different programs offered to low income or underrepresented community groups in college. So I wanted to give back in that way. but came to UCLA, met so many amazing folks in my Asian American Studies cohort. And then one of my mentors, who's my big sis, shout out to Wanda, who's a Thai American activist and does a lot of organizing when it comes to civic engagement for her community, that I met her and she was already in the MA and MSW program. And she asked me what I wanted to do. And as a mentee, I was like, well, I don't really know, but this is what I'm interested in terms of bringing more awareness or maybe community organizing about, how Lao people can increase access to certain spaces of privilege when it comes to higher education, when it comes to wealth, when it comes to healing traumas, things like that. And I don't think I worded it in that way, but that's how I'm remembering it. And it wasn't until I met Wanda that she introduced me to this dual degree program with MA in Asian American Studies and then social work. And because she was already in the program, she let me know that I was already 85% of the way in. So I was like, okay, well, let's just see. Let me apply. I don't know if this is going to work out, but I'll apply. So I applied to the MSW program after I already started attending the Asian American Studies program. So it overlapped and I eventually got my acceptance letter. So let me tell you, y'all, this is a very non-traditional track to social work. It fell in my lap. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, please let me do social work and to become a licensed therapist. No, none of that. So I pivoted in a sense, and I acknowledged that there's a lot of room to grow for myself when it comes to skill building, community organizing, program planning, all these things that I could imagine a social work program teaching me that I wanted to do. So I didn't even think about doing micro work, which is clinical practice, one-on-one. That was not in my purview at that time. My desire was really just to serve my community, give back, because I had a very strong father figure that, again, taught me the importance of giving back to your community, serving and helping and making sure that everyone has a level playing field when it comes to being able to access resources that are going to help them improve their quality of life, essentially. So I went through the Asian American Studies program and tacked on social work. So let me just talk about just the overlap of these two programs and how difficult it was, but at the same time, it was manageable. I was able to navigate it in the best way that I could. Thank goodness. To my support system who was able to really support me. And so now that I got accepted in both programs, I was ready into Asian American Studies. Now I have social work. I was like, what do I do? Traditionally, each program operates individually. And if you were to just do either or, it would have been 2 years each. But because my program was combined, it allowed me to finish with 2 master's degrees in 3 years. And it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies, y'all. It was a lot. So I just want to continue to reiterate that this is a very unique experience to me. Some folks just want to go to the clinical track and just do their MSW. That is fine and dandy. If you want to do that track, more power to you. You may not need Asian American Studies. For me, Asian American Studies was a stepping stone to then understand like, oh, actually you need more practical skills when it comes to understanding how to host events or what does it mean to actually carry out an event from beginning, middle to end, when it comes to grant writing, when it comes to those soft skills that are important in clinical therapy, when it comes to really holding space, active listening, all that good stuff, which I wasn't necessarily getting in my Asian American Studies program. However, my Asian American Studies program informed the way that I do a cultural analysis and talk about the intersections of being Asian, being Lao when it comes to mental health. So that was how I was able to combine the two, and it worked out perfectly for me. This may not work out for you, but let this inform that it is a possibility if you wanted to continue to do a creative project or a thesis focused on a specific community group or an issue that you're talking about specifically pertaining within the Asian diaspora, Asian American diaspora. So just to name how valuable it could be for you to tack on the Asian American Studies portion of it. So moving forward, so I started in 2013. I got accepted into the MSW program and later on in the 2013. So technically my program started 2013 and then ended in 2016. With that in mind, I had to finish all the requirements, make sure I talked to all of my advisors on both ends to make sure that I wasn't missing any classes, that what classes could overlap or count for both masters. And then I had a creative thesis project from my Asian American Studies program, which meant that I needed to do a kind of like a final project to graduate. So I focused on honing in my short film, Pet Me Siamese Fighter, and then writing additional 20 pages to back up the significance of this and whole hodgepodge of Asian American Studies. And then I also had to do a first year internship, which started in 2014 for my master's in social work. That required 16 hours a week to work there. And I did community mental health in Long Beach and had a caseload of clients. So that was actually a micro practice. My second year, I actually did a more macro/meso practice, which means that I am doing less clinical and a little bit more program organizing, grant writing, hosting wellness groups for youth in South LA. My second year internship required me to do 20 hours a week. Again, I did the fast track. Some folks are coming from a place where I already work, so I'm just like needing to do more classes. This is more formality for me. Each social work program is going to be very different, so make sure you talk to the advisor of that program to get all the specifics of what you need. I'm just naming what I went through in order to graduate and be successful in completing both masters. So after I graduated in 2016 with my dual masters, I did not know about the licensure process still, because that wasn't in my mindset to become a licensed therapist. I wanted to focus more on the macro aspect or the meso aspect of program planning and implementing programs specifically to address issues when it comes to either mental health or civic engagement. I wanted to focus more on the big picture. That's where I thought my impact could be. So I did not go the licensure track immediately after graduating grad school, but some of my colleagues did, which they actually were able to get licensed faster. But I so appreciated my experience of being able to take my time before I really decided that that was the path for me. So I ended up working at UCLA doing coordinating for a few programs under a center that supported different marginalized identity groups. I did intergroup dialogue and help train and also help host different dialogue events where student leaders can facilitate important conversations about diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. And then I helped coordinate for a coaching program, work with student coaches on how to build emotional resilience for fellow peers. So that experience in itself made me realize how valuable I am when it comes to navigating difficult topics, when it comes to holding space for difficult emotions to arise. So remember, I graduated in 2016. It was until late 2019 that I decided I need to finally get licensed because I'm actually enjoying this work. I'm enjoying the one-on-one. Although I'm a program coordinator, I wanted to be in the trenches with my student leaders at that time and really help support them gain more confidence and self-esteem while I'm also helping myself do the same thing. And I realized, I'm already there when it comes to, the basic skills and the things that I would want in a provider. And why can't I be that person that my community needs or that I needed growing up as a licensed psychotherapist, as someone that I would love to have related to, that I can become that clinician that my community looks up to. All that to share that I am finally making the decision after having a lot of resistance with myself to become licensed. And I took on a forensic treatment therapist position at a nonprofit, collected at least 3,000 hours because that's what you need in order to become licensed. But not only that, you have to take a law and ethics test. You also have to take a final clinical exam, and you have to have a lot of also money saved up to be able to pay for these exams. This is not just a walk in the park. You have to actually pay and have all those hours in order to have the license to practice privately, but also if you wanted to join a group therapy, you can also do that as well. There's just so many things that you can do to be able to use your license in a way that fits your passions in all the projects. You can become a program manager, and manage a wellness program. But again, I wouldn't have known this if I didn't become licensed. I would have not seen the other opportunities that were made available. But I also saw when I was pre-licensed a lot of opportunities that I wish I could have if I became licensed. So the world is your oyster, and you can be super creative about how you want to manifest culturally relevant and supportive mental health services and holistic mental health services to your specific community. It doesn't even have to be focused on a marginalized identity group, but if you think about therapy and how it has been almost like a white woman's job and role, in that there has been little to no representation of different marginalized identity groups when it comes to sitting in the chair of being a therapist, the more important that we need to have more therapists with our own unique identities that get the culture, get the way that we talk, the way that we vibe, so that we don't necessarily run into having issues with someone that may not completely understand and cause more harm. I will say that you don't necessarily need a therapist that has the same background identity as you in order to work with you in a culturally relevant or gentle or soft way, but it doesn't harm to also have someone that just gets you. And so to each their own, but here I am now, licensed clinical social worker. I've been licensed for a couple years now, but I will say that I could have been licensed earlier, but the practice has always been there since 2013. And that is something that you can never take away from somebody, is their unique life experiences. And what I went through as a child of refugees, as a daughter of refugees, is something I'm going to take with for the rest of my life to help inform and close gaps that I see that other people may not have the power to. And with this licensure, I can continue to close gaps when it comes to mental health and stigma of reaching out for support, especially when we need it. I hope that this video was helpful. And this is just an introduction to my story and how I got to where I am in the licensure process. And feel free to share any comments, any feedback, or questions you'd like me to answer in the next video, whether it's some of the very specific challenges that I faced during my licensure process, or some of the key lessons I've learned about doing a double degree program. So let me know in the comments, and I hope that you like, share, subscribe. And if you need more information about what I do, you can visit my website at healingoutloud.org. Hope to see you there, and bye everyone.